Hello. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. Well, I'm very, very excited to be here today. I am going to share my story and also some key concepts that were really, really powerful for me and my life and my financial future. And I'm hoping that you guys will benefit from that as well. I feel very privileged to be on stage here to share the stage with so many experts across the world and as well as locally. So, is my present? Yeah, there you go. The start of it was when I was in college. I was around 20, 21 years old, and I got into this idea of, maybe I pick up a book or an audio cassette or something on self-help. And I had one that I picked up called 7 Habits, and it was by Stephen R. Covey. And I had to drive down for the weekend to go visit family, and I decided to put this in, and instead of listening to music, I'll listen to this tape. And I was driving down, I don't know, maybe it was because I was driving on the California coast, it was late at night, the road was clear, it was quiet, I had no distractions. I just was focusing on what he was saying. And what he said that really stuck with me was this, is that your life is not a product of your feelings. It is a product of your values. That your life is a product of your decisions, not your conditions. That you are the one that's responsible to make sure that good things happen in your life, not anybody else. It was you. And that meant that I had to take action, that I had to do something for good things to happen, no matter what the circumstance was. The idea is that we have this power to choose our response regardless of the circumstance, which we have no control over. So, between what happens to us and our response to it, between what happens to us, the stimulus, the conditioning, our past, and how we behave in response to that, there is a space. And in that space lies our power and freedom to choose our response. And in those choices lie our growth and happiness. And this was profound for me. I was really feeling like a victim. I mean, granted that I was 20 years old or 21 years old, and I was in college, I had a bright future, I went to a good school, but I couldn't help but feel like a victim of how I grew up, my disadvantages, my parenting or my parents, and the things I didn't have, all the big powers that were playing on my life. I always felt like I'm still a victim to it all. But what he was saying was that I don't have to be. That if I'm a victim, it's because I chose to be a victim. And that was really hard for me to stomach. I didn't want to believe that I'm a victim because I chose it, not because I am one. And so I kept thinking about it and thinking about it. Like I said, I was just driving and I had no distractions, nothing to take my mind off it, and I kept thinking about it. If it were true that I chose to be a victim, then it was also true that I could choose not to be a victim. I can choose to do something. I can choose a new response regardless of my conditioning, regardless of what was happening to me. And that's when I really felt like I was let out of prison. I really felt liberated on that drive. I can imagine it now. I'm just driving and I've just felt this amazing feeling that every day I can choose to respond in a new way. That's not based off of my moods, not based off of my feelings, my impulse, or how other people treat me. I have this power. We are all born with this power to choose our response, regardless of the condition. Animals don't have this power. Animals cannot do this. Animals can be trained to be responsible, but they can't take responsibility for that training. They can't change it, but human beings can. We all can. And so that was the turning point in my life. I realized that I was in the driver's seat again. And I'm always in the driver's seat. And whenever I don't feel like I am, it's because I don't think I am. And I can just change that. I can notice that. I can be self-aware and change that and get right back into the driver's seat. And so as I continued to screw, I kept this in my mind that I'm going to make choices that are going to make good things happen. And then I came across this other book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. How many of you guys have heard of this book? Yeah, very popular book. And a good friend highly recommended the book, and I picked it up, and he explained this in the book, that there is a big difference between asset and liability that most people don't understand. He provided a new definition for me, one that's not common in accounting or finance or in business. It actually goes quite against it. And he said this. Now, what I would like you to do is actually pieces of paper that you guys have, go ahead and draw these 4 boxes, okay? You got 2 boxes on top of each other, which is income and expenses, and 2 boxes on the bottom, which is asset and liability. Okay, it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to be an artist, just simple boxes, all right? And he said this, an asset puts money in your pocket. Imagine that. An asset, that's all it is just puts money in your pocket. And to the contrary, a liability takes money from your pocket. And so this was really simple. And I thought, I can understand this. I can get this. I can see that that's what an asset is supposed to do. It just puts money in your pocket. And a liability takes money from your pocket. And then he went on to show the cash flow of a poor person. And he showed this. Job provides a salary, goes into income box, and then all the income goes to expenses, and then goes out. So a poor person spends everything that they make. And then he showed the cash flow of the middle class. They take the same income, but they put it into liabilities, thinking that they're assets, and then it goes out. And I was like, how are smart people with MBAs making this mistake? Because the middle class is stuck. And he said it's because they confuse the two. They confuse assets and liabilities. They think a liability or an asset is not a liability. That the liability, which is their house, their car, is an asset. And that's what accounting tells you. On the balance sheet, it tells you that your house is an asset because it's got equity, it's got room. Your car has some value that you can sell it for. But that's not what Kiyosaki was saying. Simply, if it doesn't put money in your pocket, it's a liability. If you buy a house and every month you're paying into the mortgage, it's a liability. It's not an asset. And I could understand this. I could get this. I can see. I was still not believing it, that it was that simple, but I could understand this. And then he went to go on to show the cash flow of the rich. Now, what I want you guys to do is anticipate what the cash flow is here. Now, you're going to draw that line from, you're going to draw that line from job to income. Go ahead and do that on your sheet. Okay, can you guess where it goes? What does the rich person go? Just answer it yourself. It goes from here to passive, okay? Now, what happens when you make money out of an asset? Where does it go? It goes back up to income. Then what do you do with that money? It goes back down. So go ahead and do that. Do the flow of money. Go ahead, write that down. Write it from income to asset, back up, and then it goes back down, and then back up, and back down, and back up. Do you guys see it? Did you guys see what I saw? That's it. This, to me, this is financial freedom. It doesn't get simpler than this. Don't confuse liabilities and assets. Put your money in the thing that makes money. If it doesn't make money, don't put your money in there expecting it to make money. I could do this all day, every day, and there was no question that I would become financially free. That's where your money works hard for you, and you don't work hard for money. And this was huge because this meant to me, I'm very stably in the driver's seat. I am in control of my financial future. Simply from these boxes, I could understand that I would reduce expenses, increase income. Whatever income I had, I'd put into the thing that makes more income, and I'd just go back and forth, and I would reduce my liabilities. I wouldn't confuse the two. And so from then on, and this is when I was in college, from then on I committed that I will not make this mistake of confusing the two between assets and liabilities. And I was well on my way. As soon as I finished school, I got a good job. I was in construction, and California was really great for construction at the time. It was booming, and I had a good paying salary. I started out with $50,000 in debt and only $500 in my bank account. But I had this on my side. I understood this. And within 18 months, I was ahead of 80% of America. 80% of America at that time, and probably still today, lives paycheck to paycheck, meaning one paycheck doesn't come through, they lose their house, they lose their car, their kids probably can't go to school, they can't provide food for the table. They can't do it. Just 1 month without their paycheck. And in 18 months, I was ahead of 80% of America. I was well on my way. Now, I didn't have any assets, I didn't have extra income, but I just had this mindset and understanding that I'm not going to do it to myself. I'm going to exercise my power to choose. That I don't have to go off of my conditioning, what I learned from my parents and what I learned from society, that my house is my asset, that I have to do what everybody else does. And this was very difficult. This was very difficult because the conditioning, the societal conditioning, and what everybody thought around me, people thought I was crazy doing what I was doing. I had to work really hard to put away money and to live cheaper, live below my means. This was very difficult. But I exercised my power to choose every day. And so after 18 months, I lost my job. Now, since I was in construction in California, the recession came to construction first. And this was around 2006, 2007. And I lost my job. And when I lost my job, I had 6 months of space to choose my response. I didn't have this knee-jerk reaction. I mean, could you imagine, maybe some of you have had this feeling before where you lose your job and then you go immediately into panic mode. I didn't have to panic. I had room. I had room to think and breathe about what I'm going to choose to go do next. I didn't have to do the next thing. And so I decided to focus my efforts on Dubai. Come out here, like most of you, come out here for opportunity. You know, no taxes, greater pay, greater upward mobility or upward movement in your career or in business. And so I came out here with the intention of doing more of this. And one thing happened that I didn't expect, and I'm sure many of you didn't expect, was the world recession. I really thought Dubai had it and wasn't going to have the effect of the world recession, but it did. It happened, and then I lost my job again. But because I understood this, not because necessarily that I had the funds or my money was going up or down, and that wasn't the indicator. The idea was that I exercised my power to choose. I had discipline. I understood that I was doing it for financial freedom. And what financial freedom meant to me was that I get my life back, that I don't do what everybody else is doing. I don't have the same fears as everybody else has. I want to live my life. I want to live the way I want to live, not the way I've been conditioned to live. And so after the recession, about a year into it, I had about $3,000 left over. And I was almost broke. And that was around 2009. And by 2011, I had $50,000, $15,000 in debt, and I quit my job. And the idea was that I didn't have lots of money. I didn't have lots of assets. Even today, I have less than $100,000 net worth, but I make thousands in passive income through real estate. You know, I'm not a world-renowned expert like the ones that come on the stage here today, but I simply have this story to tell that I was able to get out. And I don't need a huge mass of money, which most people think. They feel like they need a big nest egg, you know, some amazing website to just make it and then they become millionaire. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to get my life back and to be able to focus on the things which mattered most to me. And so in 2011, I got involved with the Cashville Club. And in this club is where I connect with other like-minded people, people who read the book and are engaged in this kind of thinking, in that we take control. We choose what we want to do in the future. It doesn't matter what the economy is. The rich person, the wealthy mindset, does not depend on the economy, does not depend on circumstance, on conditions, or on conditioning. You challenge the way you think, and then you move forward. You make commitments, you make decisions, and back them up. You stay responsible to make sure that good things happen. It is your responsibility, not anybody else's. So in this club, I connect with other people who are like-minded, and I share these ideas and share my story. And on a weekly basis, we have events and meetings where we play this game called Cash Flow 101. And this is just the information if you need it. And for me, it's not about being wealthy. It never was. And a lot of the people that come to the Cash Flow Club, it's not about being wealthy. It's about being free to choose. Being free to choose what you really want to do in your life. You know, we know nobody on their deathbed wishes they spent more time at the office. Nobody on their deathbed says, I wish I made a little bit more money. You can't take it with you. But we really want to spend our time in a way where we feel fulfilled. You know, whether it is in business, we're doing something that's really impactful. In our industries, we're being innovative. We're being value-driven. We're not being competitor-driven. You know, as Steve Jobs would say, he would never want to do a Me Too product. I'm just going to copy what's out there. You know, he wanted to be an innovator. He wanted to be a leader because that really drove him. It was never about the money. And in the club, I find that a lot of people are driven by their family. You know, they want to get out of the rat race. They want to quit their job just so they can spend quality time with their family and do the things that they really want to do. And what's interesting for me is that in the 4 years that I've been teaching, I spent a lot of my time on the Cash Flow Club. I really enjoy spending time with people and sharing with them these concepts and ideas that have a huge, profound impact on their life. I don't get any money out of it. Even my team, I have a team of about 7, 8 people, people who have their own businesses, people who quit working for money for years, and they're taking on a part-time job in the club, not because they're motivated by money, because that's how they really want to spend their time. It really drives them. And to live like that every day, that's what it meant to me, is that put everything in perspective, that I wanted my life back, and that's ultimately what we want to do, is that to have our life, it is our choice how we lead it. And I hope that my story has some resemblance in your life, and there's some benefits that you can gain from my story and these concepts. And I'm sure that the rest of this weekend will help you, guide you into getting that and achieving that on the how-tos. I mean, I'm a product of the self-help industry. You know, these ideas are not mine. I didn't originate them. I didn't do anything special other than follow what I read, mentors that guided me, people who knew better than me. And one of the things that Kiyosaki says is that make sure you have a mentor that's been there, not your neighbor, just like Pat said. Your neighbor is in the same financial situation than you. You know, and the reason why they call them brokers is because they're broker than you. So the idea is that where are we getting our advice? Are we getting our advice from people who know, who've been there, or people who are just thinking about ideas just like you are and struggling just the way you are? And so I humbly join in that journey with the people in the Cash Flow Club to just get better at this, to not confuse assets and liabilities, and I keep growing. And fundamentally, I know as we do these things such as these seminars and these books and tapes and mentors, the person who's insistent on that, there's a correlation between their success and doing these things. And I'm a product of that as well. So again, I hope that what I've spoken about was helpful, and I congratulate you guys on being here, making the choice, exercising your power to choose, to make good things happen in your life. Thank you.